wraparound, caught up on his feet, chipped on goal, and they score! Arturi Lehkonen goes to the goal, his first in the NHL, and we're tied at 2.
Yeah, and Mitchell goes right over to the linesman. Give me that puck, please, because it's his first goal.
Desharnais coming with speed, cutting to his left, to the circle. Desharnais slows down, and he fanned on it, and the Senators win in a shootout.
8:07 on TSN 690. It's Weekend Game Plan with Matthew Ross. We're here till the top of the hour, and that would be 9 o'clock. Don't forget, Impact broadcast pregame 2 p.m. today. They're taking on TFC. A chance to try and get a home playoff game. A win would go a long way towards accomplishing that later on. Sunday Night Football as well. We're joined here on Habs Breakfast in studio by Amanda Stein. Canadians lose 4-3 in a shootout last night. Amanda, good come-from-behind effort. It didn't look like they were going to get anywhere near 3 goals at one point when they were down 2-0. No. And the lines hadn't yet been juggled, and they just couldn't even get out of their own zone.
Isn't that the thing, line juggling, and I think that was what people were responding to on Twitter anyways. When are they going to start juggling the lines, like taking bets when that was going to happen? And for once, it actually, it paid off. Not for once, but one of the times it's actually paid off for Michel Therrien to start mixing things up. But certainly that first period, they looked sluggish. They looked a little out of their element. And really, Al Montoya keeping them in the game. Yes, giving up 2 goals in that first period, but certainly doing a valiant job keeping it close enough for them to be able to score these goals. So I was impressed. It was his first time this season, of course only a second game, but where they've had to make a comeback effort, and they managed really well. Unfortunate to give up that third period goal at the very end to Tom Pyatt. Jeff Petrie had a really good night scoring 2 goals. A bit of a miscue on a 2-on-1 play there. He said that he felt bad for that and that he should have been better on that Tom Pyatt goal.
Anytime Tom Pyatt scores, you should feel bad.
Yeah, I suppose so. And then, the shootout is a bit of a crapshoot. I wish, Desharnais had at least gotten a shot off on that. Fanning, that's a tough pill to swallow, especially when that could end up being extending the shootout. So all in all, I think it was a fine job. I think they're coming home to Montreal for the first time this season, 3 points locked up, and you really, I guess, having Al Montoya there in the first 2 games with a bunch of new players, not a bad start to the season.
Yeah, so the Habs will play Tuesday and Thursday at home. And you got Carey Price hopefully going Tuesday. That's what the indications are.
Well, see, I doubt that he'll go Tuesday because if he's
the plot thickens.
Well, just if you look at the way the situation is, he hasn't played yet. He's been sick. He's been with something they're calling the severe flu. So they have the day off today, which means there'd only be 1 practice under his belt tomorrow. It's unfortunate if he doesn't get to play in the home opener and be part of that opening ceremony the way skaters normally are if they're not injured or sick, but I would imagine that they would want him to have a couple practices, get back into game shape because he's been off for a little bit here and been so sick that I would imagine that Thursday against the Phoenix Coyotes is more likely when we're going to see the debut of Carey Price. I don't think Al Montoya ever thought that he'd be starting a home opener.
No, not at all. The Ottawa Senators played last night as if they were the ones that lost 5-4 to the Leafs a few days earlier. They really, it looked like they, everyone was kind of ragging on their defensive effort in the first game of the season, and that they had something to prove. It certainly looked like that Guy Boucher kind of, lit into them about it. And they really responded, but the Canadians were kind of resilient and stayed with it. Do you think that putting 3 goals up and from people like Petrie, who wasn't in there in game 1, and Lehkonen, do you think that this is something that maybe gets Lehkonen going, and even Radulov, who didn't scored in the shootout, was very active during the game? Do you think this kind of opens not the floodgates, but maybe the faucet a little bit here?
I mean, I don't think that there was any problem with scoring so far this season in 2 games. Scoring 4 goals in the season opener and then 3 more last night. I don't think that that's actually, for once, really been an issue. And when you're looking at someone like Lehkonen, when you're looking at someone like Radulov, this is about learning to adapt to the new system, learning to adapt to your new line mates. getting used to the fact that you're going to be juggled in the lineup quite a bit as well. And these are two guys with offensive talent. I think you're absolutely right when it comes to Radulov. No, he didn't score yesterday, but I thought he did a really good job. He had some good looks there. But
I also think he should get some credit for getting Galchenyuk going. Galchenyuk was kind of invisible, and then they put him with Radulov for a little bit.
That first period, though, I think everyone kind of looked a little bit invisible, if you will, other than Al Montoya.
Yeah, Al Montoya was pretty visible.
He had to be, and I think he's done a great job. I remember listening to, during the pregame show, I believe it was Pat Hickey who was saying that, Al Montoya is a guy who has done a good job backing up Roberto Luongo last year. He's doing a good job so far backing up Carey Price by being the starter when Carey Price is out. But he's also a guy who truly believes that, I think he's 31 years old, that he can be a starting goaltender. And you almost want that from your backup because it pushes themselves to be their very best when they're in that position. And so I really like this is a really huge upgrade for Montreal. To have someone like this, like Al Montoya, come in, especially starting these first two games, to prove to this team that if Carey Price is not in net, they don't need to be gripping their sticks a little tight or be worried, be more defensive minded. They have the ability with their backup goaltender. It's been proven now that they can go out and be not looking after their defensive game, but knowing that there's solidity back there. Not Carey Price level, but enough that they can still keep in mind their offensive game.
Habs Breakfast here on TSN 690. We're in conversation with Amanda Stein talking about the Canadiens' effort last night. A lot of fans in the post-game ragging on David Desharnais. The shootout I have no issue with. He's if you look at the stats all time, David Desharnais is actually the leading shootout percentage guy for the Canadiens all time. So
he's had plenty of success there.
No issues with him there. However, during the game, what did you make of him there? I just, for me, he's a guy that if he's not setting someone up, I don't know how useful he is in your lineup because I can't count. I lost track of how many times he was thrown around like a rag doll. Falling over, throwing, and he's not a guy with a lot of speed, so he's not breaking past people. So if you're on a line with Carr and Shaw and those guys are doing the dirty work, but they're busy doing the dirty work and he has no one to pass to, I don't know how relevant
he fits in.
He is. Yeah, it's a bit frustrating, I find, to watch.
It is. It's funny you mentioned that, and because last night I was watching the game with my friend, and she said to me, she's like, "Who is that guy? And why? What is he doing?" And like she doesn't really know much about hockey. She knows a little bit, but even she could tell that
I had the same question. What's he doing?
That like
what is he doing?
Desharnais looked out of place, and I sort of explained to her how he's a bit of Michel Therrien's pet, who perhaps gets a little more.
He's a foxhole guy.
Yeah, he's a foxhole guy who makes a lot of money. She's like, he makes that much money? What is he? It's like even people who don't know hockey is sort of ragging on Desharnais.
Wow.
But I know I kind of felt bad for him. But I think you're right. Like when you look at having line mates like Shaw and Carr, where does he fit in? He fit well with Pacioretty for a time being because he was that setup man, and that played to his strengths.
Oh, I think they're hoping that happens with Carr because Carr does have a pretty decent shot. But the ideal situation.
But they're sort of like that runaround line.
Yeah. Right?
They're that runaround line that Desharnais can't keep up with.
That's a great line. That needs to be on your Twitter handle. I like that one. But one thing we were talking about at the beginning of the show is I think that Buchanan's ideally, in a perfect world, on a contending team, top 3-4 team in the NHL, he's the perfect third line guy because he can do so much.
Yeah.
And in a perfect world, the Canadiens have a second line offensive center, and Buchanan is your third line guy because he's a shutdown guy. He can play the PK. He can chip in. He can play so many different types of styles.
Very versatile.
But he's on that second line right now, and Desharnais is kind of miscast in that third line, but they don't have any other options. I would almost rather, Amanda, they bench him, put in Mitchell on the third line, and put Flynn in as your fourth line center. I don't know how much they lose, other than the shootout, other than the option for the shootout. I don't know how much you lose.
It's a very good point. But again, it goes back to what you were just saying before. He is that foxhole guy, and I think if anything we've learned over the last couple of years is the loyalty that Michel Therrien has to a guy like David Desharnais, for better or for worse.
But he didn't sign him to the contract. It was Bergevin that gave him that amount of money. So is it Bergevin maybe pushing Desharnais to stay in the lineup because of that money, do you think? Or you think it's
because
both?
I don't think that Bergevin messes with who's actually in the lineup. Look, whether Desharnais is sitting in the press box or whether he's on the ice, he's still going to make the same amount of money. And they still have to play within the rules of the salary cap.
That's fair. Sven Andrighetto, he clears waivers.
Slightly surprising.
He'll
that
go
he
to the
wasn't-
ice caps.
He's going to go to the ice caps. Slightly surprising that he wasn't picked up. He can be a versatile guy, but $650 is a lot of money for a guy like that, and especially when you don't know how he'll fit into your
That's a
lineup.
culture shock, though, right? You're in Montreal.
Well, he's done the Hamilton.
He's done the St. John's,
St. John's thing.
But to be living in Montreal, the spread, the catering, the flights, and then you got to go all the way to Newfoundland. And kind
but isn't that sort of what they talk about in terms of like building character? That's how, and like riding the pine and riding on the bus.
But
and,
it's
like,
different
you have
than
to do all Sure,
people rag on
sucks.
Hamilton, but it's still a city, right? It's a central city that's not too far from Toronto. It's
Of course it sucks. I mean, no one wants to go from Montreal to being you're Sven Andrighetto on the fourth line and you're still being recognized on the streets. And then you sort of take this bump down where I hope they fly them out there.
I hope he likes fish and chips.
I hope they fly them there, but
what, you think they're sending him on a boat?
Bus.
Is that it?
On a bus. No,
Sven, we couldn't get any flights. There's a giant cargo container. We put a couch in for you.
But you know what? It's good for Montreal. It's good for Montreal that they still have him in their arsenal.
It is weekend game plan here on TSN 690. I don't know if I have perhaps a bad karma. I don't know if it's a situation where I've offended some people, but yesterday Arpon Basu doesn't make the 8:05 Habs breakfast. He does join us a few minutes later. Today, Robin Short from the Telegram is nowhere to be found, but thank goodness for Amanda Stein. Now, Amanda, we put you on the spot yesterday for a prediction. You said 3-2 Habs. You were 2 minutes and 30 seconds away from that.
I didn't
you were
realize that.
You were looking pretty good there, so it was close. It was close. So
this is why I don't make predictions.
This is why you don't make predictions. So you're not going to make one for Tuesday then?
No, because if I'm going to make a prediction, it has to be at least, day of.
Okay.
So only Saturdays will I be making predictions for you.
Okay. All right.
Okay,
so only on Saturday games.
Only
that's
on the
pretty.
days,
That's pretty limiting. That sounds like a bit of a
it
cop-out.
is. No, it's not a cop-out. It's so that I don't have to do it as often as people would like me to. I just think predictions are so insane. Especially when it comes to hockey. It's so unpredictable.
Yeah, I mean, you look at some of the results last night and you see it, right? So Tuesday, the Canadians you're going to take on the Pittsburgh Penguins, 7:30 start right here on.
Could be a game without Carey Price and without Sidney Crosby.
Marc-Andre Fleury, we expect, would get the start there. More Mike Condon? Huh?
I doubt it.
Doubt it? Yeah.
I doubt it.
All right. Well, I mean, they're going to have to start Condon. They're going to have to start Condon at some point, right? Why not have it in Montreal? Matt Murray's out until November, so Condon is the backup for a while here.
He is, but Marc-Andre Fleury can handle a big workload.
All right. So Pittsburgh at home, and then you have the Coyotes coming in on Thursday.
Yep.
And then followed by the Bruins in Boston next Saturday, where Amanda will give her big prediction.
Right. I will.
Yeah.
I will do that.
But you're going to have to research this now. This is like a whole week of prognostication.
I hate that we have this as part of the segment.
Oh, it's amazing.
Now.
Dave, should we keep it or should we...
My least favorite thing.
Oh, it's happening every week, every Saturday.
Anytime I say don't like something, guys here at the station are like, well, we're doing it now.
Should we have her do football picks too? Just random football picks?
Oh, I could do that.
Really?
Yeah, because I have I know I'm not like an authority of any sort in football. So I can just you just be like, this team or this team. I'll just tell you, this team. We could I'll do that with you.
Okay, all right. Well, this is Habs Breakfast, but before we let you go here, Amanda, and she'll be back obviously for the 8:30 Sports Center update. Dave is wearing a Ravens shirt. He's a Ravens fan.
Yeah, okay.
They're taking on the New York Giants today. Dave, should we get her prediction on that?
Yeah, I want your prediction.
I'm going with a Giants win because one of my best friends is a Giants fan, and I know they're not going to win, but that much I know.
I looked at Dave's face when you said that,
Very
and
disappointed.
it was just there was such melancholy there.
The life out.
Yeah,
wow.
it's I was happy to see you all day, Amanda, and now it's
All right. Well, Amanda C. Stein on Twitter if you want more NFL predictions, as Amanda will be glued there for the Week 6 action. It is that was another edition of Habs Breakfast here on TSN 690.